presentation, and this is with Alan Mills and David Werner. I've worked with Alan here at CareFirst in the past, and David, I've met you at CA World a couple of times, I believe, and we welcome you to the user community, and take it away, please.
Okay, excellent. I'll go ahead and start us out, Alan. So my name is David Werner, and I'm with CA. I'm part of the Solutions Marketing team. And so Alan Mills from Digital Clarity and I are going to go through maximizing the value of Agile Project Management with CA Clarity Agile. And to start with, I think probably the first thing I should do is explain that CA Clarity Agile is what we previously called Agile Vision. And that is our Agile Project Management tool that we have that works with CA Clarity PPM. So we just recently changed the name of it to be CA Clarity Agile, and the reason for that is probably obvious, but mainly it's to leverage the power behind the Clarity brand, but it's also to highlight its connection with CA Clarity PPM and including it as part of a Clarity solution. So when you hear us talk about CA Clarity Agile, if you're already familiar with that, think Agile Vision, because that is what the product was called previously. So with that, I think we can introduce ourselves a bit, and I'll start. So I'm in Solutions Marketing for CA, and so that's for the servers and portfolio management products. That includes CA Clarity PPM, along with Clarity Agile, and also Clarity Ideation, which used to be Idea Vision, so we've changed that name as well, and also CA Clarity Requirements, which used to be Product Vision. So the old Product Vision suite has been, that was along with Clarity, has now been combined with the Clarity brand and into one family. And I think it makes it just easier to understand for everyone. But in terms of my personal history, I have worked on Clarity a little over 8 years. I go back actually beyond CA to, I was with MeCube that made Clarity before the CA acquisition. And I've been in a number of different roles. For a number of years, I was in information-related roles in terms of producing information that gets out to customers, documentation, help, things like that. I spent a few years in product management, and in those years, I really worked with a number of you in terms of understanding your issues and enhancements that you had and working through to solve your problems and get things in the roadmap that you were looking for. And the last couple of years, I've been in a marketing role in our marketing team, and I actually have a number of different ways I interact with a lot of you. I manage our product advisory councils for one. I do things like host some of the roadmap webcasts, things like that. So I really had an opportunity over the last several years to get to know a lot of you and really understand the issues that you're facing, and really have had the pleasure of getting to know a lot of you and really taking that back to our teams here and making the products as good as we can to help your issues. So, Alan, I think I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself.
Hey, thank you, David. My name is Alan Mills. I'm Engagement Manager at Digital Clarity. I'm also working on a Agile practice as a manager and champion of the Agile practice. I've worked with Clarity and the products previous to Clarity for over 10 years, and really enjoy working with customers. I work with Purdue, and as Karen was saying, I work with CareFirst in implementing Clarity, and really enjoy working with the product, and really proud of getting into passing the PMI ACP certification 3 weeks ago, and really enjoy working with the Agile teams and collaborating with people that are implementing Agile. So look forward to talking to you today. Thank you, David.
Okay, so I'm going to advance the slide here, and what I want to What I'll be doing really is I'll be talking through really the business factors involved in what's driving the trend to Agile, and along with that, I'm also going to be talking about some of the unique factors that you all face as Clarity owners in terms of Agile taking root and evolving at your organizations. And since you are all already doing project and portfolio management with Clarity, there's some unique issues that you run into as Agile teams come up and mature in your organization. So those are the things I'll be focusing on, and then after that I'll be handing off to Alan for him to talk through. He'll talk through more about the benefits of moving to Agile, and he'll cover that in some depth, and then also specifically using CA Clarity Agile, and he'll be covering that in quite some detail. So what I want to start by doing is really talking about some of the customer-related factors that are driving the trend towards Agile. And a lot of it, I think, from a customer point of view, a lot of it comes from changing expectations that our customers have about technology. And when I talk about customers, it doesn't necessarily mean external customers, although it may be. They may be your internal customers. So if you're an IT organization or you're a PMO organization, your customers that are expecting the products that you're delivering. And when you think about technology changes that have taken place in the last few years, it has really changed how we have come to expect how we get technology. And this is everything from, it starts at a personal level, but it carries over to our lives in business. And, I think a good example is when you consider today how we go about getting technology on something like our phones. And, whenever a new app comes out or some new technology, and it's a pretty simple process, right? We go to the App Store, we surf through there, and we find something, and if there's a charge to it, we pay that fee. And really, within a matter of minutes, we have gone from, I maybe could use that technology, to now you have it and you're up and running with it. And that's also true not only on things like mobile devices, but if you think of in terms of SaaS applications, and whether that's on a personal level, if it's something like Facebook, or if it's on a business level, something like Salesforce, where you've gotten accustomed to, we've all gotten accustomed to updates happening on a regular basis, and looking ahead to what the next version of something is, and then seeing that come pretty quickly. And when you contrast that to, it wasn't that many years ago that the way that we would go about getting technology, there was a lot of time and a lot of logistics involved with it. And it would, to get that same type of application that we now get within minutes on our phone, you may have previously gone to a store and gotten a packaged, an actual box, right, and brought that back, or maybe had, if it's enterprise software, a box was shipped to you, and you pulled out the DVD, or going back further, you pulled out the disk, right, and you installed all that. And it was an involved implementation that you went through, an involved amount of time and logistics. But none of us back then, for those of us old enough to remember that, it was the norm, and our expectations were met. That's what we expected that to be, and of course today that has changed, and we expect technology to get to us much faster, and so those things that were the norm for us not that many years ago, they don't meet our expectations today. And this carries on not just to how you get new products, new technology, but in particular, it definitely extends into updates to technology. So when you have we expect our new products to get to us in a timely way, but we also now expect those updates to take place very frequently. So, we look for that SaaS application to be updated, or we look for that next version of whatever it is to be updated soon. And whereas in the past we tended to look at something as maybe 6 months or a year or more out, and that was acceptable, that's not so acceptable to us anymore. And one example that I like to give in terms of these change expectations is around, I look at my own sons who are in middle school and grade school, and they play a lot of games online, and their expectations today are that they look for every month or so for there to be content updates available to them, where they can get new maps to play in or new characters that they can use. And it is absolutely a part of their expectation that they can have those updates available to that technology. And when you think back to several years ago and how we used to go about getting those updates, those same updates that they're getting monthly, we would maybe wait a year for the new game to come out or whatever that product is. And now it's become part of our common expectations that we look for things to be updated incrementally with smaller updates, but getting them frequently. So, with these expectations changing, these are not just personal expectations, but that carries over to what we expect in business. And, our customers, so whether they're external customers or whether they're your internal customers, your customers expect first of all, they expect to get what they want and quickly, but they expect to get regular updates and improvements, and and frequently. So they not only expect what they want version 1, but they want what they want version 2 and version 3 and version 4, and they want it pretty much as fast as you can produce it and put it in their hands. And, along with this, your business expects you to meet your customer expectations. So as their expectations have ramped up and they have more they expect from you and expect it quicker, your business expects you to meet that, and of course the business expects you to keep aligned with what the business needs. So this is where Agile fits in, and Agile by its nature in terms of the smaller iterative processes that it has, being able to release technology quicker, it fits very well to meet the needs of these new expectations. And Alan's going to be going into more depth in terms of how exactly this does this and the benefits of Agile in terms of producing it, in terms of producing product. But what I want to touch on here is how uniquely Agile fits into meeting those expectations. So in the example I gave of content that's available for a particular product, if you're going to be having those kinds of releases on a monthly cadence like that, Agile development is really the best fit to be able to do that and do it quickly and with stable releases. And that's one of the things about Agile that, and you'll hear this more from Alan, is the benefits of it involve really the efficiencies you get from the collaborative type of environment in terms of the teams working together. You don't have one team handing to another. You have all the teams working together at the same time and into smaller cycles, smaller chunks of work. And it keeps projects from getting stuck. It keeps issues from being pushed further and further down the line, and then all of a sudden it ends up with a big roadblock and it ends up extending a long cycle time. You don't have that so much with Agile, where issues are found in smaller and earlier, where they can be dealt with. And also what that means is you end up with you have these shorter turnarounds and you have frequent releases, but the releases are also more stable. You end up with higher quality and better adoption in terms of the stability. So again, it's able to meet, Agile is very nicely meets with that, getting customers what they want version 2, version 3, and version 4. But one of the areas I want to touch on here before I hand off to Alan is some of the unique issues that you all encounter as Clarity owners, because you are already doing project and portfolio management when you're using Clarity. And as the Agile team, as Agile starts to get adopted, it has some unique needs that the Agile teams have, and then also that you have in connecting what you do with Clarity today, or your project and portfolio management, to what your Agile teams do. And I wanted to start by taking a step back and talking about how Agile teams often start out and how they progress and evolve when Agile is being adopted. And in most organizations, I think if there isn't Agile going on to start with, if it's traditional methodologies that are being used, typically you'll start with a small team, and maybe it's a pilot team, and they'll dabble a little bit in Agile and try to figure out does Agile work for us? Does it work for these people and this team and for this product and for this organization? And at that point, that small team tends to be pretty disconnected from what you're doing today, your overall project and portfolio management that you manage with Clarity, and that's okay because it's a small pilot team, and you're trying to figure out if that works for what if Agile is going to work. And then the next stage seems to be, as Agile starts to take root, you're having some success, the teams start to realize that, the Agile teams realize that they need some specific Agile tools. So they need the type of Agile project management tools that you have in a product like CA Clarity Agile or any of the competing Agile tools. And they need things like virtual walls and Kanban boards and things like that we don't have in Clarity PPM. And so what happens is, as those teams, they become smaller and they start adopting those tools, the CA Clarity Agile or another, they start to use those tools. And even if those teams are a little still disconnected from what you're doing in your overall project and portfolio management, usually that's okay. It's figured out. You'll deal with that at some point down the road. But that down the road does come. And that's the other piece of this, is that as Agile teams mature as it becomes evident that Agile does work for your organization and it does work for this product line or this org, and it becomes evident that it's going to be a permanent part of what you're doing in that organization, well, then you need to have it be connected to the rest of your project teams. And you need to have connection to PMO or to the IT org or the product development org or to the business in general. And the business has its needs. It needs to be able to give it that same oversight and understand the status and give direction just like it does any of your other projects. Now, if the Agile teams are disconnected at that point from what you're doing in Clarity, or I should say just what you're doing in project and portfolio management in general, if those Agile teams are disconnected, well, this presents some issues. And there's issues to the business at the highest level, right? Because the business needs to make the right decisions on what it should invest in, and it needs to have Agile projects included in the portfolio view, just as you do with all your other projects. And the business also needs up-to-date data on what resources are on, what are the costs, and it needs to avoid that garbage in, garbage out scenario. And if you're not getting real-time information into what's going on in those Agile projects, then it's difficult for the business to make those types of decisions. And of course, the PMO has its own needs. So the PMO needs real-time status, and it needs the resource visibility and capitalization data, all the things that the PMO needs out of your other projects. It needs it from the Agile projects. But of course, the Agile teams have their own needs as well. And the Agile teams want to focus on development and frankly not focus on reporting status or resource tracking or cost tracking, right? They want to be efficient, and they want to work in tools, Agile tools that fit their Agile processes. And they want to work in environments they're used to, and they want to be as efficient as they can in doing Agile. And so this potential disconnect is resolved through the Clarity solution. So when you look at CA Clarity PPM along with CA Clarity Agile, it provides for all this. So it connects your Agile teams to all the rest of your project and portfolio management the same way all your other traditional projects are connected. And it gives the Agile teams what they want. So they get the functionality that they need for Agile projects. They can do things like work in AOM tools that they want to through different integrations, and Alan will speak to that and give some examples. And also, it frankly eases things for the Agile teams in how they don't have to do the same ad hoc process reporting or guesstimating on things like capitalization. It takes care of all that, rolls up into Clarity just as it does for all of your other projects. So it actually eases things for the Agile teams quite a bit. So, and then of course it meets the needs of the PMOs getting what they need, just like you all get today in using Clarity. You get that real-time status, you get the resource visibility. And then of course the business gets what it needs in terms of the insight it needs into those Agile projects to make the decisions it needs. So I'm going to wrap up here in a minute and hand off to Alan and let him get into some detail. But just to kind of wrap up here, I wanted to circle back on the customer expectations piece and talk about, the customer expectations have changed, and your customers, whether they're your internal customers or whether they're external, they expect these products, they expect technology products to come to them quicker. They expect regular updates. They expect that what they want, version 2, 3, and 4. And again, as often as you can provide them, your customers want them. And Agile is a great fit for that because of the short development cycles and the stable, high-quality releases, getting away from the long development cycles. Agile is a great way to meet those customer needs for technology. And then lastly, using Clarity and using CA Clarity PPM and CA Clarity Agile together, it helps you meet all those things. It helps you meet the customer expectations, but do so while you're still giving your Agile teams what they want to be able to focus on what they do best, which is Agile. And it gives the PMO what it needs in terms of cost understanding and resource visibility, and of course it gives the business what it needs and the ability to make timely decisions and build the right products at the right time. So with that, I think I'll wrap up my intro here, Alan, and hand it to you to go into more detail about Agile.
Thank you very much, David. Appreciate that. As David was saying, within the current market environment, there's a need to innovate much quicker on products and services. There's also a need to deliver those products and services in a quicker way, faster delivery. But at the same time, there still needs to be quality in the products and services. So the result of that is it's very difficult to predict at the beginning of a project what the end result's going to be. You can't really create upfront unchanged specifications at the beginning. And really the rate of change is very high. So that's where what's driven the need for an approach that will help facilitate developing products and services, in particular software, in this new world that we live in. So this first part of my presentation here, I'm going to talk about we'll focus on the benefits of Agile, the value to the business of Agile, some of the Agile processes, and then I'm going to go in and talk a bit more about the CA Clarity Agile product and how it can enable and facilitate the processes around Agile project management. But let's take a quick look at the beginning. What is Agile and what is agility? Well, agility is being quick, light, and easily moving through something. It's essentially being nimble, and opposite to being stiff and rigid. So in the Agile approach, your ability to respond to change is very important, to profit from those changes in the global business environment. You can also quickly reprioritize using Agile. You can use resources when requirements and technologies and knowledge shift. And agility means that you have a fast response, and you can actually work with your customers through intense customer interactions. And basically the essence that makes Agile project management effective is the evolutionary, incremental, and an iterative way of delivering information. The ultimate part of that is that it maximizes business value, and it puts everything in the right size, just enough, just-in-time processes and documentation to deliver the most business value. So let's compare now traditional project management with Agile project management to get a contrast between the two. In traditional project management, basically you know at the beginning roughly what the end product's going to be. A good example is you're building a house, airplane, or something that's been done many times before. It's a very repeatable process. So you can identify, define, and schedule, and order all the detailed activities. In the Agile project management world, you really don't know at the beginning. In an innovative environment that we're in, it's very fast changing, you don't know what the end product is going to be. So you need to use an inspect and adapt approach that enables you to look at the results of an iteration, see those results, and learn from the results to move forward to build new versions of the product. And it's really suitable for new and innovative and untested products. So what we've seen over the last 10, 15 years is a real movement towards Agile project management. About 10 years ago, a group of the experts in the Agile world put together an Agile manifesto. And the manifesto was kind of the groundwork that is the kind of central thing that people would go back to say, what does Agile, what does it mean? What are the main things that drive an Agile project in a different way to an existing project? And they came up with these 4 comprehensive statements. And what is very important here is that every item on here is very important. What they're saying is the first one, where individuals and interactions are valuable more than processes and tools. Whereas, as we're going to talk about here today in our presentations, we're going to see that the processes and tools of Agile are very simple and efficient. And the more simple and efficient you can make the processes and tools of Agile, the more you can spend time on the individuals and interactions that make projects more effective. So you can actually utilize the people and work with them in a collaborative way and communicate very effectively with them, because you're not spending time figuring out what the process is and how to interact with the tools. The other part of this is that we derive value, working software, something that's of value to the organization over comprehensive documentation. That doesn't mean you don't document in an Agile project. You just don't go overboard and document every piece to the detriment of having something that's valuable to the end customer. Also, collaboration is very key to this. It's the essence of teamwork that's involved with an Agile project, where everybody from the customer to the developer to the business analyst are all considered part of an overall team, and they're really focused on achieving success rather than negotiating through contracts. And finally, the last part, again, it is this new environment where there's so much change that you can't really follow a plan that was initially set at the beginning. Now, what the key word here is planning. Planning is the most essential part of this. You define a plan, and you actually adapt the plan as you go through the project, and you go through a planning process on a daily basis through an Agile project. And I'll talk a little bit more about that process as we go through the presentation. But these elements are really what guides us through the Agile project management process. And what's happened over these last 10 years is large organizations have started to adopt Agile project management as they've seen a higher success in their projects. You can see that there are 3 times more projects that succeed in IT environment and 3 times less fail than in a traditional environment. So, and this is published by the Standish Group, the results from a survey of IT organizations. So let's move on now to what is Agile a bit more in depth. I want to kind of drive you to seeing some of the processes, and like I said, in the first part of the Agile Manifesto, it says individuals and interactions over process and tools. And what makes Agile work so effectively is the simple but efficient and disciplined way of managing an Agile project. The common Agile methodology that's used is the Scrum framework. And I'll just briefly describe that process for you to review for many of you that use Agile right now. But at the beginning of a project, the customer would come up with a product backlog, actually define a vision for the product, and define the stories that belong to that product, the things that they want to accomplish, the features, and then they would define stories that would be developed, a narrative represents how the user would utilize the product. Those stories are then prioritized, and the highest priority items that bring us the most value to the customer are then broken down into what we call a sprint or an iteration. The sprint is a 30-day duration of time, and what that enables the people working on the stories, the highest priority stories, is to focus for those 30 days on delivering something of value at the end of those 30 days. So they start a sprint, and on a daily basis, they choose the stories they're going to work on as a team. Again, the key part of Agile is the collaboration, so the team chooses between them, which ones to work on, how they're going to work on it themselves. And then they go about doing the design, the build, and the test on a daily basis on those stories. And at the end of the 30 days, they would end up with a complete working increment of the software. And on a daily basis, they would have a daily stand-up meeting to determine what was accomplished yesterday, what will be accomplished today, and are there any impediments. And it's a very quick 15-minute stand-up meeting where everybody collaborates. And there's really another way to communicate very effectively one-on-one. Now, what the Agile world determined was it's very effective to do this with one-on-one meetings in a face-to-face environment. As we all know, that's very difficult these days because of the distribution of people and teams throughout the world. And that's where a tool like Clarity Agile really enables you to collaborate through that virtual team process. So what we'll describe in a minute is how Clarity Agile can enable a virtual team to be very effective to utilize the Scrum approach. One thing that's very important as well, I think I want to consider here, is Agile is a very scalable approach. It has grown from the organic approach from teams deciding that they would be more effective to manage in an Agile approach, and it's been very successful at that, in that arena. But as we talk today, we're going to talk about how we can apply this to the enterprise overall. And so what I wanted to show you here was that in an Agile project, there are basically 3 layers. And at the beginning of a project, you would define your vision. You do the traditional project management approach that you would do for any project. Define your vision for the product of the project, do a product roadmap, a charter, the main things that you would accomplish during that initial setup for a project. But this is when you actually define your releases, and releases would be on a quarterly basis. And then you define what would be, you think would be accomplished in each of those releases. And then you get into release planning. Release planning gets into the process of defining in more detail a backlog of those items that need to get accomplished. Go into defining the iterations or sprints that will be accomplished to get to each release defined. And at the end of each release, there's a release retrospective that basically looks at what was the lessons learned we had from that particular that release. And then finally, the iteration is where the daily work gets done, the daily design, code, and testing. Within the work every day, the team works on specific stories to accomplish through design, code, and test. And they, at the end of the period of time, this is typically about 2 to 4 weeks, 30 days, they would deliver something of working software. And then they would actually have a demonstration of that software to the end user, and then they would have a review, a retrospective of that iteration, which then can be lessons learned for the next iteration. But as you can see, this is very strategic and iterative at the same time. So let's talk about now why you'd use something like a tool like Clarity Agile to be more effective and efficient in utilizing Agile. So again, you can spend more time on the individual's interactions and collaboration that really make an Agile project work. So as the Agile teams become more passionate, there is a method to support them and to enable them to communicate effectively and to share their information. The distributed teams, as we talked about, throughout the world would have a way to communicate and update each other on a regular basis. And from a PMO perspective, a project portfolio perspective, the Agile projects would need to be integrated with all the other projects for, you know, what's happening with our portfolio metrics on our capacity planning. Are we having enough resources to work on all the projects? Are we working in a financial effective way? Are we making sure that we're meeting all our targets and metrics for our portfolio? And because of the seamless integration from Clarity Agile to Clarity PPM, you can actually utilize the tool to see both the details of the Agile project as well as the summary information that lets you see how the project compares with the other projects in the portfolio. So now we'll dive into some of the benefits of using Clarity Agile. Basically, Clarity would drive the governance, and Clarity Agile would drive your approach, as we talked about earlier from the approach from the Scrum perspective. It works very nicely with a partner tool called Requirements, which allows you to track your requirements and releases. Basically, can look at a holistic view of where your resources are being utilized across your Agile projects. And one of the things I want to talk about in the presentation as we go through this is when you enter time in your Agile project in Clarity Agile, you only need to enter it there through a job within Clarity PPM. The time will be sent to the person's timesheet so they don't have to enter their time in two places. It's a very powerful way to enable the people that work on Agile projects to only have to work on Clarity Agile. We also have an integration piece that enables you to integrate with ALM platforms such as Quality Center and Jira for testing and for development to enable the developers to have a much more integrated and effective experience. And finally, because Clarity Agile requirements and PPM are from CA, it's a one team, one solution approach. So it's a very integrated approach. So again, before I get into describing the tool and the functionality, this is the framework of Clarity Agile. Again, it talks about the fact that at the beginning of a project, you define your product vision. The customer comes up with a vision, and it's the anchor that makes the product effective, and everybody communicates around what is the vision of that product, so they can actually see when they're developing releases, sprints, stories, and tasks, what are we actually trying to accomplish in the end when we get there? What is it going to somewhat look like when we get there? What is the vision of that product? So it starts with that vision, but then the first inkling of starting an Agile project is to have a release planning meeting. What's our roadmap for the project? What releases would be accomplished during the project? And then every quarter there would be a release, and each release would be planned with certain features that would want to be delivered. And then you get into more detailed planning, which enables you to define the sprints and the iterations that would need to be accomplished through that release. You may have 3 sprints during a release, 1 a month, that enable you to define the specific working valuable software or deliverables at the end of that sprint. Then it moves into the user working with the end customer and the developer to define user stories. And user stories are ways to describe in a narrative what's the functionality going to look like. And it comes from the perspective of that user. And then the team goes in and starts working with the user stories to define the specific tasks they need to accomplish to design, code, and test for that user story. So within Clarity Agile, there is a capability to define your release, your master release, your releases over a time period. So at the bottom of the page here, you have the quarterly view. You have your master release, then you have your releases, and then the features that are going to be defined. So you can lay out in a very graphical way, what is my plan, overall master plan for my product. So when we're working in the details, we can always go back and look at the specific details, the specific strategic plan of the releases and how the releases all fit together. So this becomes your guide, your vision of where you think that the product will go over the period of time. So it's a very nice tool to give you that strategic view. Then the product owner, the person that's the customer representative that knows the product very well, would start writing those user stories, those detailed items of stories, the narratives, that describe what will be the function for each of the features and requirements when they're completed. And within the user story, you can actually define details such as what would look like when it's finished in terms of a test case. You can define the specific people, the personas, the people that would use it. And then those would be listed out in this page here on Clarity Agile. And then the user can actually rank them and say, of these user stories, I think this is the most valuable user story of all the ones that I need to accomplish. And then you can use this page to say, well, it needs to be in this release, and it needs to be in this sprint. And it could be a page where you could collaborate with the team to define, okay, we think we can put it in this release, and we really think we can put it in this sprint. So it seems like something we can really accomplish. So it becomes planning page for all of the requirements and stories for the release and sprint. So now driving down from so far we've been through the release, we've been through the release planning, which is your detailed backlog of those stories. Now we're actually into the sprint itself. And within the sprint itself, the team would actually pull those stories that were designated for that specific sprint, and they would actually go in and first of all look at the ranking. They would actually do something they call, in estimating an Agile, you would use a point system. And the point system is a relative system that enables you to see the relative number of points between one story and another. It just is a way to kind of weight those stories and say, well, I think it's going to be 12 points, and as you see here, there's 12 points for the first story and 8 for the second. Well, that means that the team has defined the first story as a bit more effort than the second. And it's a relative scoring. It's not a specific one that says it's going to be this number of hours. And it works very effectively because then you can actually use it to kind of define how many stories am I going to accomplish in a sprint. And then as you go through and actually get the work done, you can actually track against that and see how effective you've been. So within Clarity Agile, it enables you to actually see things like what's my planned capacity for the team for that sprint, and what's my planned number of points for that sprint. So now the team can actually go in and look at the specific tasks that they would like to do to accomplish those stories. And within the tool, there's a very powerful tool called the virtual wall. And what the virtual wall does, it enables you to put on sticky notes for the tasks. Each sticky note represents a task that can be accomplished to achieve a story. And so the team uses that virtual wall in a distributed way. They could be anywhere in the world to look at the overall accomplishments in the plan and see where everything fits together. So it's a very effective way to communicate what's going on. And this is where they can actually click on a specific task and actually put in the total hours worked. And when a job runs to send information back to Clarity PPM, it will be actually populated inside the person's timesheet. So effectively, they would only need to work inside of Clarity Agile to keep up to date with their project information. As the team progresses and starts working on their project, there are several graphical ways they can show their progress and communicate to everybody where they are and what they've accomplished so far. This is a good example where you actually define your guideline for your project at the beginning. I'm going to do roughly 270 points. And what this looks at is on a daily basis, how many hours are completed, how many hours are remaining on that particular sprint, and then even a place where how accurate am I with my estimating. Because over time, you would hope that people would become more accurate with their estimating. And as they get used to each other on a team, they work together and they understand how they develop and how they work and their speed, what they call velocity in Agile, they can actually do an effective job at estimating based on their past performance in past sprints. So it really is a way to keep track and use the discipline of effective project management to keep track of the way that the team is progressing on the project. So within the newest release of Clarity Agile, there's a new tool called Kanban, which really enables the team, the two uses of Kanban. It can be a strategic tool to look across the organization and do strategic planning to see how many items are in progress or not. So Kanban is a tool that was developed through the lean processes, and it really enables you to make sure that you don't have too many things in progress at the same time. Because it's been tested that if you have too many things that you're working on at the same time, then you become overloaded, and a team becomes overloaded, and the end result of an iteration will not be achieved because the end result is to have working software at the end, or a working product. So Kanban puts in place a very simple but effective method to limit the number of in-progress items that can be worked on at any one time. And so you can monitor and see how many items are in progress in any of the phases within the project. So you can see how many are planned, how many are in progress, how many are done, how many have been accepted. And you can actually set limits on how many can be in each phase at any one time. And that can be set by the customer. And over time, through your experience, you can actually define what that limit should be, because you'd kind of maybe experiment with it a bit. But what, like I said, this does, it enables the team to make sure that they really focus on delivering valuable working products and software at the end of each iteration, rather than trying to take on too many things in progress at one time and get too overloaded and too spread thin. So basically, you will make sure that enough pieces go through the process and get accomplished before you start working on another piece. So within the tool, there are some very nice charts that enable you to see where you're progressing through those different phases. The cumulative flow chart enables you to see over time how many tasks are in the planned, in progress, done, accepted, and closed. And you can also set different names for those phases as well, if it makes sense to your organization. So this tool here to show where everything is very effective in managing the process and making sure that the team, and it's managed with the team can actually manage themselves to make sure that they don't take on too many things and become too overloaded. At the same time, deliver the most effective, most valuable pieces of the software and product. Another tool that's within Clarity Agile is what we call Chatter. And Chatter allows you to use some of the social media communications to follow, respond, and review to conversations about a product, a particular person working on a product, a team, the sprint team. It can be set up in any way that you want to collaborate. So it becomes a collaboration mechanism for the team to talk in detail about specific items about their project, the daily collaboration. Again, interactions and individuals are the most important part of having an Agile team be successful. So this is the part where the teams can really interact and share information about their project and utilize the tool to share that information back and forth. So the other part of the integration with Clarity Agile is the fact that it integrates very nicely with other Clarity products, as well as using a tool called TaskTop to integrate with development and testing tools and other ALM tools that are available. As you can see from this diagram, Clarity Agile ties in very nicely with Clarity PPM. It will send the Clarity a project from Agile. It would send timesheets back to Clarity PPM, so the person doesn't have to enter their time. So there's a very nice synchronization there. There's also a synchronization from testing tools such as Quality Center and development tools such as Jira back over to Clarity Agile as well. So a little bit more in depth about the mapping of a project back to Clarity from Clarity Agile. As we talked about earlier, the hierarchy for the Agile project is a product, a release, a sprint, a user story, and a task. And when it maps back over to a project within Clarity PPM, you can see the mapping process here: release to a project, a sprint to a phase, a user story to an activity, and a task to a task. And because the people are putting their time on those specific tasks in Clarity Agile, that's how the integration is very seamless to the timesheets within Clarity PPM, because it's a task-to-task, one-to-one relationship. So that mapping back to from Clarity Agile back to Clarity PPM is very effective. As you can see here, I'll just show you back in Clarity PPM one of the standard portfolio views from Clarity that shows you an Agile project, the cash management Agile project, with the other existing traditional projects. And you can use it then to do your dashboards for performance, for resources, for financials, for other comparisons, and anything else you would use in the same way through the portfolio management capabilities within Clarity PPM. And so effectively, you have a way now to integrate your Agile projects back from your Clarity Agile back over to Clarity PPM. And so I'm actually finished with my part of the presentation, and David's going to wrap us up here, and we'll come back with some questions.
Sure. Thanks, Alan. And yeah, I think we're going to open this up to Q&A in just a second, but we wanted to make sure we put up a slide here where you can get more information on the things we've talked about here, on both from a standpoint of what's available from CA and also from Digital Celerity, where Alan is. The first, if you're not familiar with it, on CA.com, we have a page called Get Agile. And it's really a great resource, I think, for you if you are considering moving to Agile or just in different stages of it. We have a number of different success stories there, some webcasts, lots of really good information about moving to Agile at your own pace, and it's really a good resource of information. So that's ca.com, Get Agile. Also, go to Digital Celerity's site. There's a lot of great information there about different things they have in terms of resources. For example, this Going Agile white paper you see listed, that's an interesting one. That's actually the story of the Clarity development team at CA. It's the story of how we went from a traditional waterfall methodology shop to an Agile shop. And we had our stumbles along the way, but we learned lessons, and we got to the place we are now where we use Agile ourselves. So, and they have a white paper on that at digitalcelerity.com that you could read about that. So a number of other things here. Again, go to digitalcelerity.com, go to ca.com. One other thing I wanted to mention is that if you like this presentation, if it was interesting to you, Alan and I have done similar variations of this talk a couple of different times, and we did one a couple of months ago that's recorded on the Bright Talk channel that we have for CA for Clarity. And in that case, we recorded one where we talked about some of these same concepts here, but we also added in the element of automated delivery. And the idea is where as fast as you can develop with Agile, you then can deliver just as fast through automated delivery. And so if you're interested in that presentation, go to brighttalk.com and search for CA and service and portfolio management. We have actually a tremendous amount of webcasts there, and you'll see another one from Alan and myself about the same topic. So I think with that, I think we would open it up to Q&A from the group.
Alan and Dave, thank you so much for your presentation. We do have a couple of questions. And operator, were you going to provide the information on people calling you questions, please?
Yes. If you would like to ask a question, you may do so by pressing *1 on your telephone keypad.
While we're waiting for the call-ins, Pete Foley has asked, what are the challenges for introducing this with a customer?
I can answer that one. I think the challenges are is it's Agile Project Management is a almost totally different methodology or a mindset. It's a different mindset to the traditional project management, and it's basically very much focused around the person that runs it being a servant leader, a collaborative leader, and whereas a traditional sense, the project manager was set the stage and was the leader from the, this is where I'm going to go, and that's one of the big changes. And It's basically the change where everybody on the organization is now going to be involved on a more regular basis with the details of a project, which is another change. And it's like one of those changes that happens with any organization going through that change process. There's a kind of an organized change process to help people adapt and to move towards that new way of doing everything.
Okay. Oakland County has a question. Where can we get more information about Task Top and integrating TFS with Clarity?
So I'll take that one. I would say the main source of information would be on ca.com about the CA Clarity Agile page. It's on that page. You could also go to TaskTop as well and read about all the different connectors that they have. And I would say, personally, you could reach out to me, and I'd be happy to give more information on that. And I'm david.warner@ca.com, and be happy to point you in direction for more information.
David, there's a related question from Jay Jarvie. Does TaskTop product work with other Agile tools and Clarity PPM, or just other tools and requirements?
It just works with the connection we have is just between CA Clarity Agile and PPM. It actually ships with CA Clarity Agile. If you were to go on and get TaskTop yourself, there is a separate. You could do that as a separate license fee for that. If you buy CA Clarity Agile, it comes with a connection to TaskTop that integrates with Clarity PPM.
Operator, do we have some audio calls, please?
There are no questions from the phone lines.
Okay. We have no other online questions at this point. Is there anything that we'll give a couple of more moments, but do either of you have any additional information you'd like to share or comments you'd like to make? Alan?
No, I don't think there's anything else. I appreciate everybody's time today.
Good. Well, we appreciate your contribution to the community, and as we indicated at the beginning, both Alan and Dave can be reached. Let me stick their email addresses back up. It's Alan Mills at digitalcelerity.com and David Werner at ca.com. Okay. Operator, we have no other call-ins.